It's 9 p.m. on the East Coast of America, and live from the WACA studios, this is Good Night. We're starting with some sports news tonight. After a long op-ed from Bleacher Report writer Scott Miller broke down the newest controversy in Major League Baseball. It's electronic umpiring. The debate has been on and off for years now. But with the minor leagues beginning to experiment, the conversation has never been fiercer. The technology uses lasers to determine an accurate strike zone based on the height of the batter and calls the pitch using an earpiece in the home plate umpire's ears. Many players are skeptical about the implementation of this tech, whether they're concerned about how it will favor pitchers, take away the skill of catching, or they're just mad about change. But others think it will elevate the game to a more consistent level. The Umpires Union has no comment, clearly not very happy with the discussion. But all of this links back to a study published by Boston University this year. The researchers tracked 4 million pitches. And to no one's surprise, umpires missed about 14 calls per game, adding up to over 30,000 missed calls in a season. We'll link the study below. It's a pretty staggering number, and nobody is trying to say it's an easy job, but some players, namely pitchers, are looking for more consistency, especially as the game starts to advance to the upper limits. Pitchers commonly undergo surgery and destroy their arms for the sport, so every missed strike affects them on a deeper level. This continues the discussions all over sports, or rather the human element in the face of new technology. FIFA came under scrutiny for its use of video-assisted referees, or VAR, and the NBA has increasingly become more of a foul-centric league, requiring many checks of the computer in a given game. So what do you think? Should we keep the human element around, despite the fact that it sometimes constitutes a lopsided game? Or should we let Skynet take over our sports? It's certainly a debate that won't stop anytime soon. But if we do end up getting robot umpires, it might give getting ejected a whole new meaning. In music news, Paul McCartney is on tour right now, and during his stop in Los Angeles, he brought out none other than Ringo Starr for an unexpected Beatles reunion. The two played Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band and Helter Skelter in an epic meeting of the last two living Beatles. Many fans dubbed it the greatest night of their lives, and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, which it certainly is. A reunion between two of the greatest musicians in the history is certainly newsworthy. But it also got us thinking about other dream reunions. For me, it's the outfield, which theoretically could still happen. And I'll be the first in line if it does, but unfortunately, for our producer Connor, his dream Oasis reunion is everything but possible. Paul and Ringo had their differences in their careers, but they never beat the hell out of each other on stage. After the success of this stunt, don't be surprised if McCartney and Ringo announce a joint tour sometime soon. Now in meme news, last week a Facebook event took the internet by storm. An event we'll be talking about more in our trending segment, but first, some content. A Facebook event calling for people to storm the infamous Area 51 sprang up, with the event's organizer saying he wants to, quote, see them aliens. He later clarified in a message directly to the U.S. government saying he does not intend to do this, and it was all a joke. Unfortunately, that was after 1 million people signed up for the event, and the event caught mainstream viral attention. The event is scheduled for September 20th, entitled Storm Area 51. They can't stop all of us. It spawned a whole week of alien-related memes on every social media platform, and the U.S. government apparently has taken notice. In a statement, a spokesman for the U.S. Air Force told the Washington Post that it's a training facility, a likely story, and that the Air Force always stands ready to protect Americans and its assets. I'm not going to say that this is a direct threat, but it's kind of a threat to a bunch of memers who joked about running with their arms behind their backs into a secure military base. This also comes after many U.S. senators were taught about recently declassified U.S. Navy videos containing UFOs. This is all leading me to say that 2019 is a pretty wild year so far. That's going to do it for news this week. Stay tuned for Lucy Burdge's This Week in Music History, in addition to some bits from our crew celebrating National Blueberry Muffin Day. And don't go anywhere, because what we have trending on Twitter to discuss, in addition to an important interview with Harvey Silverglate. Keep it locked here, right here on Good Night.
This is Lucy Burdge with Good Nights This Week in Music History. We begin in 1962 when the Beatles played their first ever gig, that was in Wales. Also in 1962, the Beach Boys signed to Capitol Records. In 1972, Elton John started a 5-week run at #1 on the US album chart with Honky Chateau. In 1975, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band played the opening night of their Born to Run tour at the Palace Theater in Providence, Rhode Island, right down the street. In 1995, Queen Latifah was the victim of a carjacking attempt in which her bodyguard was shot. In 2000, Matchbox 20 went to #1 on the US singles chart with Bent, great song, from their second album, Mad Season. In 2011, Bruce Springsteen made a surprise appearance at the Wonder Bar in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and played a 45-minute set as a tribute to Clarence Clements, who had died the month before, to the day pretty much. And finally, in 2017, DMX was charged with tax fraud. This has been Lucy Burdge with Good Nights This Week in Music History. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Lucille Burdge for both.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Good Night. We're going to be hashtag trending on our topic of discussion. We got 4 good items. This guy right here, he's not a younger Bobby Orr lookalike. That's Nick Fetherston. And joining us is, as we often describe him, as Mr. Clean's body stunt double, the great Todd Carter. Good evening, guys. How you guys doing?
Well, how are you?
Happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday. Boy.
So the top things trending on Twitter. If we go to Connor back in the studio, let's punch up our first item that's trending on Twitter tonight. What do we got? Oh, this will be good. Hashtag Area 51. This kind of blew up the internet last week. What do you guys think?
Gonna see them aliens.
Definitely gonna see them aliens.
Let's see them aliens. So Area 51, it's real, huh?
Oh, it's a real place, yeah.
They're definitely storing something in there that they don't want people to see.
Like if they wanted, if like there wasn't something like crazy in there, they wouldn't be like so secretive about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think's in there?
Aliens. Or some sort of like experiments.
There are also rumors about like mermaids, that mermaids are real and they might be hiding them in there too.
Mermaids, Loch Ness Monster. Pretty much like all the supernatural creatures that like everyone's like, oh no, those don't exist.
Just so the few people out there who don't know what Area 51, where is it? What is it?
It's a secret military government compound in Nevada that's like super top secret. Like nobody,
It's literally in the middle of the desert.
like super remote location. Nobody can like get there. Like the sad reality with this Area 51 thing is like once you step foot on there, you'll probably be shot on sight.
The government would never do that, would it?
Oh no, totally not.
Now, 1 million people signed up for this event.
I almost did.
And why didn't you?
Well, because at this point, I'm afraid I'm going to get put on a government watch list.
Like you're not already on one. Come on.
Okay, well, yeah.
You're related to this gentleman. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're done,
Needless to say.
you're done for. Yeah, you're done for. I don't know, Todd. What do you think? You think we'll make the trip out? Probably.
I think we should with a camera.
I was gonna say we should.
We'll
take
do
a
that.
camera.
We'll get the whole good night crew down there.
We'll all get arrested. And stuff
They
like
can't stop us all.
Maybe we can take a selfie with some aliens or something like that. Should be good. I mean, is this guy a nut or what are you guys thinking?
I mean, he said he's not gonna do it, but
Well, the reality is that whether or not it was started as a joke or not, people are gonna do it.
People are gonna do it.
Like there are, I would say a good couple, at least 100 people are gonna show up. Like actually.
I think you're right. Should be something to stay tuned to.
Yeah.
All right, our next topic, Connor, back in the studio. Punch it up on the screen. The blackout. Hashtag blackout. You guys saw that Times Square went black on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Jennifer Lopez couldn't complete her show.
What a tragedy.
Well, come on, nobody likes the theater district more than you do. You did a couple plays in the theater district. I mean, what does that do to the business down there?
Well, for a pretty struggling industry already, it's hard when there's no power because you need the lights and the sounds to be able to see plays and musicals, and all but I believe like 4 shows had to cancel that night and were like obliged to offer full refunds to audiences. I don't know how many people like actually claim those refunds. I know a couple shows, the actors like understanding how upset people were, they went outside and they like just hung out with the audience and like sang and had fun for a couple hours. The other shows that were still open, they worked, they got their money and whatnot. But the Lion King, their like water retention system lost power, so their like costume room got flooded and like a lot of their costumes were damaged. So today they did a performance where like they had like half of their costumes, like Mufasa, he just had like the mask and that was it. The rest he was just dressed in like black.
Todd, any thoughts on the blackout in New York City?
well, New York's not well built for blackouts. I've read a lot of weird books about like EMPs and things like that, and one of the things they said is without power, New York is gonna go mad within a week.
Oh, days, hours,
Yeah.
I would think even.
It's so much of it is structured on like electricity that like it's at a point where it can't like survive without it.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you
what-
talk
what-
about like food and things too
Oh, yeah.
that are there, and that a lot of it requires refrigeration.
Well, you got no refrigeration, you got no air conditioning. I mean, anybody who's ever been to Times Square, I mean, you just think about how much power it takes to power everything in Times Square. It would be chaos within hours. Nobody could access any money in an ATM machine. There'd be riots in the streets, after like 5 hours, I think.
Yeah, not
Did you
to
see Mayor de Blasio, who's running for the President of the United States, was not in town when this happened, and his response?
No, I did not.
Not the greatest response if you're running for President of the United States.
What was it? What did he say?
These things types of happened and probably happen some more. But more importantly, he didn't come back to the city. So he, it's kind of his responsibility to make sure the power's working, and he didn't come back. On an off note, we talked about Jennifer Lopez. Who is aged better as a over 40 individual, Tom Brady or Jennifer Lopez?
Brady.
Brady. Yeah.
Oh, I'm strongly going to disagree.
Well,
I think
Brady's
Jennifer
still
Lopez
athletic.
has
Yeah.
aged a lot better than
That's not to say that Jennifer Lopez has aged poorly, but Tom Brady, you know.
He's still performing at a high level.
I don't know. I think
I
Brady
don't know if-
looks his age.
I don't
think
know
Jennifer Lopez
if J-Lo
looks her age.
is throwing a football every week.
Oh,
I didn't say could perform sports better, but
Well, yeah,
I'm
that's not
just
to say-
talking about the aging process.
Well, that's not to say that Jennifer Lopez, like anything that she does, is not like physically impressive. Like to get up on stage and sing and dance all the time, especially the intense dance routines that she's used to doing. Like that takes a lot of work.
I wasn't even talking about that. So Connor, back in the studio. Let's talk about our next item trending on Twitter. Hashtag Monday motivation. All right, guys, what motivates you to get going and get out of bed on a Monday?
Just about nothing.
It's called coffee.
Coffee. Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely coffee. Me, it's got to pay the mortgage and got to pay the student loans. But there's, do you guys look forward to Mondays or dread Mondays? Sunday night, 10 o'clock at night. Are you dreading Monday morning or looking forward to it?
Depends. Like, depends on what the time of year is.
Monday motivation to me is just get it out of the way.
Yeah, I mean,
get the
I
week
don't.
over.
I've never thought Monday was any worse than any other weekday.
No?
Personally.
Not even when work and school?
No, I mean it's the first one, but
I agree with you, though. You just kind of get through it
Yeah.
and keep going on with your week. But that's about it.
Interesting topic to be trending on Twitter, though, don't you think?
Yeah, it's a little random. This
I
one.
think,
I think
a
it's the
lot of
summertime.
Yeah, it's the summertime. I know that I've been applying for jobs, and a lot of people were away last week, so I think the Mondays are really hitting them hard right now because people are coming back from vacation after a week off, and they really don't want to come back now.
Yeah.
Last week is the deadest week of the month, they say. So many people are away on vacation, coming off the 4th, with the 4th being where it was this week. So I imagine it was hard for a lot of people to go back to work today.
Hard and probably bored at work. Need something to do. Instead of working.
Well, one thing you could do at work is our next topic that's trending on Twitter today, and that is, Connor, hashtag Prime Day Amazon. Did you guys take advantage of Prime Day today on Amazon? Is that a big thing for your generation?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I think it's 2 days this year. Right?
What did
Yeah,
I
it's
buy
2
today
days.
on Amazon?
What did you buy today?
Yeah.
Oh,
Did you buy anything?
I didn't buy anything.
Oh,
no.
okay.
I bought a couple of household items that I needed that I kept seeing the Prime Day advertised. I'm like, I'm just going to push it off until those deals start kicking in.
Oh, yeah? So you saved a lot of money today?
A little bit. I mean, I needed things like a water shirt. I'm very, very pale. So, going in the water, I need something to cover myself.
There you go.
But
And if you miss today, you've got tomorrow too, right? It
Yeah.
goes through tomorrow, right?
It goes through tomorrow. I don't know if it's all day tomorrow, but it's definitely at least most of the day tomorrow.
Now, you guys are still old enough of the generation where you got drugged to the store on the weekends and with errands with your parents and stuff like that. But now you've got the store comes to your front door. Which is better? What do you guys like better?
I think it depends on the product. Like, I honestly don't like buying clothes on Amazon because, every company sizes differently. So one person's medium is another person's large. Like, I got this shirt on Amazon. It doesn't fit me wonderfully, but if I were to buy another shirt in this same size at Target, it might fit me perfectly. So
Okay.
I'd agree with that. And then sometimes with electronics and things like that, cameras, video cameras, sometimes you want to test them out a little bit first before you go and buy it. But my trick is I go to Best Buy, try it out a little bit at the store, and then I go on Amazon and buy it for cheaper.
Well, Amazon bought Whole Foods,
I didn't know that.
and they're actively promoting, the fact that they bought Whole Foods, and I think they're probably going to buy other grocery stores though too, and it's going to be real interesting. I want to go to the grocery store. I mean, maybe I'm you know,
No,
a lot of people in our neighborhood get delivery from like the Peapod and everything like that. They do all the ordering online. But I want to go to the grocery store.
No, I don't like the idea of ordering food online. Like unless it's like I know a couple friends of mine, they get like candy from like other countries and whatnot. Like that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But like your regular groceries, like especially like when it's hot in the summer, you know, that gets delivered in a big truck. Like it's gonna get hot and like gross. Like you're ordering like frozen products.
Plus, it's nice to handpick like your fruits and vegetables.
Right. You want to know what you're getting when you're putting it into your body.
Yeah, because I guarantee the people that are, you know, picking those for you aren't sitting there and going, is this the right one? They're
Right.
just throwing it on a truck.
Is that a hard avocado, a soft avocado, a hard tomato, and stuff like that? So I don't think I would ever order my groceries through Amazon, but
And
a
then,
lot
like,
of people seem to be doing it.
Allergies too, cross-contamination, all that stuff. You never know.
But it is a good place to buy electronics and
Yeah.
garden stuff and everything like that. In our interview coming up about free speech and First Amendment rights, we're talking about what's trending on Twitter. What do you guys think, real quick, of what you guys see on Twitter and the content and some type of the language?
It varies a lot.
I know I'm the old man in the conversation here, but sometimes I'm still just astounded by what I see on Twitter. And I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, I'm honestly not shocked by like anything I see anymore. Like, whereas I might not like agree with everything I see, at this point, like I've seen stuff on Twitter and just like other social media at this point that like the sky's the limit as to like what you can see on there.
Yeah, people definitely go for like I'm trying to think of what they call it, but it's like people are just trying to outdo one another.
They want
Yeah,
the clicks.
basically.
you know,
Cl-
want the
yeah,
clickbait.
they want like the shock factor more than anything.
Shock. Yeah. They go for the shock. That's the biggest thing.
Now, do you guys, you know, in your generation, do you guys get numb to that, or or does it just get escalated?
There's definitely like when you say like numb, like desensitized to like seeing like crazy stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, like honestly, a couple like beginning of like high school, like before I was like big into like social media, seeing like the F word on like a social media post was like, oh, that's a big thing. Now it's like I see 3 or 4 per post, and I'm like, whatever. It's like,
So you have become desensitized to it.
yeah.
To some degree, yeah.
I mean, like the F word, like, oh, that's such kind of like a small thing
Right.
to use, but like,
there's a lot worse out there.
oh yeah, like I was on Twitter earlier today, and I saw the N word, and I was like, that's not okay, but also I wasn't like shocked to see it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's going to wrap another segment of hashtag trending. We'll do it again every week here. When we come back here on Good Night, we've got an important interview with the civil libertarian attorney Harvey Silverglate. So keep it right here on Good Night.
Your time is up, my time is now. You can't see me, my time is now. It's the franchise where I'm shining now. You can't see me.
Begin eating your muffins in 3, 2, 1.
going down.
No, you're going down.
It's so hard to do.
Very hard. It sticks to the inside of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You should have had water ready to go.
I think so. I like milk.
Yeah, or milk. What are you guys done? Ah! What the f? How'd you do that?
Oh my god.
I guess we have our champion.
It's alright, you want a Lady in the Tramp? The rest of yours?
No, mine.
Alright.
That was a good game, sir.
Good game.
Well played.
I need something to drink.
Yeah. I don't blame you. This was National Blueberry Muffin Week, and this is us celebrating it. And Todd can eat muffins better than I can. Stay tuned for more Good Night.
Well, it's quite an honor here tonight on Good Night to be joined by Harvey Silverglate. You know him as an attorney, a journalist, a writer, and the co-founder of the Individual Rights in Education. He's better known as a civil libertarian, and the reason why I invited him on the program tonight is to talk about the First Amendment. So, Mr. Silverglate, thanks for taking a couple minutes and joining us here tonight. How are you?
Good. It's my pleasure to be on.
Well, it's an honor to have you on, and you know, some recent controversy has been in the Boston media. Some people have been removed from their jobs. Specifically, I don't know if you saw over the weekend that Jerry Callahan was removed from his job at WEEI because of some things that he and his former co-host Kirk Minahan were saying on the radio. And it kind of got me thinking about what better expert to talk about the First Amendment than you. And I guess just a real simple, easy question, but it might not be an obvious answer, is what is the First Amendment in the year 2019?
Okay. First of all, let me just begin by telling you that I have been a lawyer for over 50 years, and I have been involved in civil liberties cases and particularly free speech First Amendment cases the entire time that I've been a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you, there has never been a time when I have considered free speech to be in a safe position. It has always been attacked, although from different sides of the political spectrum. What is interesting and disturbing about the current situation that we're in is it seems that free speech is being attacked from left, right, center, from everywhere, because we are in a point in our history where everybody thinks they have a sort of a lock on the truth, that they know what's right, they know what's good, and they know what's virtuous, and that everybody who disagrees with them is not only wrong, but it's evil. Okay, so those are the kinds of hard times, difficult historical periods, when free speech is in particular danger. Not that it's ever really safe, but right now it's in particular danger. So when you asked me to come on your program to talk about the First Amendment and free speech, I jumped at the opportunity because I think that it's such an important issue right now.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because today it was said on the Boston radio that today, you know, in today's world, it might be the most dangerous time to be on the radio right now. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And the fact that there have been talk show hosts who were suddenly unceremoniously let go, you know that the reason for that is because the owners of the station just don't have the guts, the intestinal fortitude, to take the criticism that comes their way, and some of it is quite vituperative, by the way,
Right.
to take the criticism that comes having somebody on your station who irritates a number of people.
And how did we get to this point? I mean, how did, in today's age, how did we, I was always taught that if you disagree with somebody, that's good conversation. And me personally, I love it when somebody doesn't agree with me because I don't argue. I respectfully disagree, and I enjoy the conversation. And you know what? Oftentimes I walk away from the conversation learning something as well. Doesn't mean I agree, but I can often learn something.
Well, first of all, if you only speak with people who agree with you, you never really learn anything new. And you tend, what's bad about only listening to people who agree with you is that you tend to think that the world agrees with you, and you're not really prepared for hearing somebody who radically disagrees with you. So it's very bad. I'm particularly, as you probably know, I'm very interested in campus free speech, free speech on these universities. And I am aghast and horrified that so many students today on college campuses, mind you, you're not talking first graders, you're talking about so-called higher education, want to shut down anybody who says something that makes them feel uncomfortable. Students have this notion that in college they're entitled to comfort. They're as if their parents are spending $60,000 a year to send them to some place where they can be comfortable rather than where they can be exposed to new ideas and learn something. Well, it's horrifying. I'd be damned if I was going to spend $60,000 to send my kid to a school where all the student is being confirmed in his prior views before getting there.
So how did we get here?
How we got there is, historians are going to have to figure that out 50 years from now. But I can tell you, when we got there with the last presidential election, and almost half the electorate was shocked that Donald Trump won. And that kind of set a new political substratum for the society and for the culture. And all of a sudden, the nastiness level of our politics, and I'm not only talking about Trump's critics, but the president can give as well as he can take. So the conservatives are increasingly nasty to the liberals. The liberals are increasingly nasty to conservatives. And also, there are two branches, I should tell you, of liberalism. There's traditional liberals, which I consider myself to be one.
Right.
And then the progressive, and the people who call themselves progressive, they are on the left, but they're not really liberals, because liberals are much more accepting of other people who disagree with them. Progressives, however, there's a level of fanaticism to progressivism that gets me very nervous, and I certainly can't call myself a progressive. Liberals and progressives are in very different camps. And the progressives don't treat the liberals very well. And of course, they can treat the conservatives even less well. Now, there are a number of conservatives broken down into two groups as well. There are those who are, like you, for example, if I may say so, who want to hear other people's views, are tolerant of other people. That doesn't mean you agree with them. It doesn't mean you think they're right. But it means that you tolerate them and you learn from them. And most importantly, you respect their legal right to express their views. And then there are people from the right who are intolerant and who really are the equivalent of the progressives, only on the right. So the society is broken down into these four groups. Two groups on the right and two groups on the left, and the left and right each have one group of people who are tolerant of others' views and one group of people who don't think the other guy has a right to even speak. So we are in a very contentious period. We're at war with one another. The country is in the midst of a kind of civil war. These are hard times and very, very good times for people like you who really are very important because you let both sides speak. And you probably have a conservative-leaning listenership.
Yes.
And they're able to hear somebody like me who's liberal-leaning and also libertarian express views that they may not always hear.
Well, I think that's the important part is that, we can agree to disagree and we can learn from one another. But, now you look at the media industry has changed quite a bit in the last 20 years. And there is very little local media anymore. And it's all like national conglomerate type of media. And all these big businesses have to report typically to shareholders. And they're scared to death of getting sued or having somebody controversial on the air. But if one of these big ones, and I'll say it, WEI, if they would have stood up and Intercom would have stood up to maybe some of these activists going after them, would the problem have gone away or would it have ever gotten to litigation, you think?
No, because it's not easy to, it's very easy to sue, but it is very difficult to win. The First Amendment has incredible breadth and scope. And it is currently, given the Supreme Court, for a long time, it's been through liberal-leaning Supreme Court and conservative-leaning Supreme Courts. The liberals and the conservatives on the Supreme Court don't agree about much, but they do agree about the scope and breadth of the First Amendment and the scope of speech that it protects. So we have now historically broad protection for free speech. And anybody who runs or owns a radio station or a channel who fires somebody because they're afraid that that person's views are too controversial hasn't really read much of the case law of interpreting the First Amendment. Is acting out of fear and ignorance. It's a scared commentary on management.
It is, yes. Management is scary on this subject. I'm glad to hear you say that. So with the change in social media, you and I are both, I think it's fair to say respectfully, that we're not young. And social media is a new phenomenon in our lifetime. And I read things on Twitter and go, oh my gosh, like, can you talk like that on Twitter? And I guess you can talk like that on Twitter because a lot of people talk like that on Twitter. Is there ever going to be a free speech thing about what's posted on Twitter?
Well, people sue a lot, and Twitter is one of those medium where the speech gets exceedingly nasty. But I want to tell you something. Nastiness is protected by the First Amendment. You don't look at speech and say, well, this is so nasty, it surely can't be protected as speech. No, quite the contrary. Nastiness is the reason we have a First Amendment. You don't need some very famous and well-respected legal analysts to put it this way. You don't need a First Amendment in order to say to somebody, darling, I love you. But you damn well need a First Amendment to say, you're an idiot and I can't stand your guts and you're a moron. That's the kind of speech that needs protection.
Right.
So the idea that the First Amendment only protects nice speech is ludicrous. That's the kind of speech that doesn't need protection. So it's the nasty, all of the important, forget about important, all of the First Amendment litigation involved speech where somebody said something to somebody else that was, ghastly awful. And most of that litigation has been won by the person who did the speaking. because the First Amendment is incredibly broad. You know, people say, well, you know, you can say a lot of things to somebody, but, you know, you can't call somebody an idiot. Well, you know something? You can call somebody an idiot, because everybody who hears you call someone an idiot understands you're not making a comment about their IQ. You're making a comment about the credibility of their opinion. I'm not saying this person is literally an idiot who can't tie a shoe to places. When you call someone an idiot, it's metaphoric. It's saying this person's views are not worth by even crediting. This person doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, that's fully protected. It's opinion. It's not a medical diagnosis, for God's sakes.
Well, you know, tonight my wife's going to call me an idiot, so after
Right,
that.
and she'll get away with it, but not only because of the First Amendment, but because she has spousal privilege.
And that's probably more powerful than the First Amendment. So do we need to be worried in this ever-changing political climate? And it was reassuring to hear you that the liberal and conservative Supreme Courts have always protected free speech. Do you worry about that in the next generations or 100 years from now?
Well, of course, you always worry about what the Supreme Court can do, but I have to say that the court for many, many decades now has been consistent. And it has been consistent from the liberal Supreme Court under Earl Warren right through to the Supreme Court that began to be more conservative under Ronald Reagan, to the current Supreme Court, which analysts tend to agree now has a 5-4 conservative majority.
Mm-hmm.
The First Amendment, the primacy of the First Amendment, the breadth of the First Amendment, the power of the First Amendment, has been basically unchanged through all of those political changes and all of those changes in the membership and the leadership of the Supreme Court. So I think that it's a good bet that for the lifetime of anybody who is alive today, that is not likely to change. So
Good.
I'm not worried about the level of protection of free speech, but I am worried about cowardice, bad judgment, newspaper editors, people who are radio stations and sponsors, and people who really are too ignorant and don't understand that they don't have to be cowering. They don't have to be hiding. They don't have to be afraid. They can let people on their stations and their programs give their opinions. Opinions are protected.
Well, there you go. Hey, I could talk to you all night long, but I want to honor the time commitment that we agreed to. 2 questions before I let you go. Your old colleague Robert Mueller is going to testify in front of Congress next week. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I have never been a fan of Robert Mueller. I was a defense lawyer when Mueller was the U.S. attorney here in Massachusetts. And I really thought that he was a bit of a prosecutorial fanatic. He was in love with the FBI. I have to say, I have never trusted the FBI. I have a lot of reasons not to trust the FBI. But Mueller was an uncritical judge of the FBI, and the height of his career, he will tell you this if you can get him to sit for an interview, which you won't. He will tell you that the height of his career was when he was the director of the FBI. He spent his whole life hoping that someday he could actually be director of the Bureau. And he was not the kind of guy who, if you made a plea to him to show him that somebody who they were prosecuting, the Department of Justice prosecuting innocent, he was not so inclined to sit down and listen to you. He believed everything that, as he called it, the Bureau. I call it the FBI, called the Bureau. He thought that they could never make mistakes, that they were untouchable. And so he was a bad guy to be the special investigator. I'm no Trumper. I did not vote for Trump, but I have to say that the Mueller investigation of Trump was outrageous. That whole report should be shredded. And if you really want to find out about Russian influence in the campaign, there should be a nonpartisan investigation that the FBI has nothing to do with because they can't be trusted.
Well, there you go. That might be the headline of this interview. But last one. Student loan debt. You know more about campus life than anybody that I know. I mean, you must be much as appalled as I am with the student loan debt crisis in this country.
Yeah.
How do we fix it?
And what's your question? How do we fix it?
Well, I mean, it's my opinion, John Featherston's opinion, that the student loan crisis it's a huge financial crisis. I think it's somewhat by design to indebt this generation to the government. I think it's kind of by design. I also think it's criminal, my words, criminal behavior that you're putting young adults in $150,000, $200,000 worth of debt with no guarantee of a job, no guarantee that they're ever going to be able to buy a home. And it upsets me to my core about how it goes on.
Okay, my answer is going to surprise you, and it's probably my answer is going to cause you to ask me to come back on your program at some future date in order to further elucidate what I'm about to tell you. But I know an awful lot about colleges and universities. It's one of my specialties. Okay, I'm a criminal defense lawyer, but I've also been a lawyer in education cases from the beginning of my career. And let me tell you this: the problem is not just that the government has loaned money to students who have no chance of being able to repay it. That isn't the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is that the cost of a higher education is so expensive. The reason the amounts loaned are so huge is because the tuition and expenses of higher education are so huge. Now you're going to ask me, why is it that the cost of higher education has ballooned so far in excess of the rate of inflation? And the answer is because colleges and universities now employ more bureaucrats, administrators, than they do teachers. There are more bureaucrats than there are professors. They have taken over, the bureaucrats have taken over the colleges and universities. And every dean, of course, in order to feel prestigious and powerful, every dean needs an associate dean. And every associate dean needs 2 assistant deans. And every assistant dean needs 2 deputy assistant deans. And before you know it, we're at exactly where we are, where the number of administrators vastly outnumbers the number of teachers. And that is a huge expense. You want to know where the money goes? That's where it goes. And it is a crime, in my view, to saddle students with this debt in order to pay these bureaucrats who don't have anything to do. They are always looking for things to do. Believe me, I spent a lot of time on college kids. They sit and fiddle their thumbs. They think up programs that they can justify their existence. They're sure not justifying it to me. They should all be fired. Boards of these colleges should look at the list of employees, should look at the payroll, and should immediately fire 70% of all of the administrators. And then you probably still have too many left. It doesn't take that many. Colleges need students and they need professors. They need very few administrators. And now they have an army of them. That's my view.
Well, I think you and I agree on this. And the last question I'll let you get away tonight with is when you hear Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or any of the Democrats that are campaigning right now for running for president, and they say that they're going to wipe out student loan debt and student loans. What do you think? I mean,
I think that they're probably smoking something they shouldn't be smoking.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you. He is the great Harvey Silverglate. He is one of the best interviews that we have. We hope that you enjoyed this interview. Mr. Silverglate, it's always an honor to have you on the show, and I hope we can have you on again real soon.
It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back here on Good Night. Stay tuned, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on Good Night. Special thanks to Lucy Burdge with This Week in Music History, and our trending panel, Nick Fetherston and Todd Carter. And our interview guests for tonight, the illustrious Harvey Silverglate. We'll be back next Monday at 9 p.m. with another edition of Good Night.